Greetings and salutations, and welcome to episode 169 of Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner. That is Trev here. And today's episode, we are going to be doing some grab bag in the cool down. So if you're interested in having your question heard, please make sure that you let us know. Put it into the comment section as we stream live every Wednesday night at 7:30 Eastern here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And, you know, we enjoy everybody who comes in and interacts. They like the video that we do. Great things are happening. We will be talking about specifically in the grab bag some of the hires that the Josh Harris Washington Commanders have made, one that's supposed to help during game situations and one that's supposed to help possibly put the stadium back in DC. So we'll be doing that in addition to the questions that we'll get from our listeners tonight. Then during the game, we're going to be talking about Top Golf 30, as it was Hunger Games last night there at Ashburn, as all of the top 30 visits that Washington wanted came into town, to include the top 3 QBs that are going to be available to them at the number 2 spot. And they went to play some Top Golf. We'll talk about that unusual tactic and how the top 30 might give us insight into who Washington is looking at during the draft. And then here during the warm-up, it is the March Madness QB edition finale. We had the lead up. Drake Maye lost to Jayden Daniels. JJ McCarthy did not put up a valiant effort. And Jayden Daniels named the winner of our March Madness QB. The pick is in. Seems to be a lock. Adam Schefter on Trap or Dive saying that, hey, go ahead and buy your jerseys. Well, look at that. Fans of Ref the District are going to be super happy to hear that, because overwhelmingly, Jayden Daniels was the favorite. I don't think he had anything closer than 75-25 during the votes. And his fandom came out in droves. They came out. There was more than 1,500 people voting each time Jayden Daniels was a part of it. You two are big Jayden Daniels fans, and I like them. I like each. I'm on record. I like each of the QBs that are available to Washington at 2. I have my concerns for each of them.
Sure.
And nobody seems to listen to the concern I have on Jayden Daniels. Why do you think that is, Trev?
Because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear anything any kind of flaw that anybody has about their guy. That's why. And it's probably a flaw that might not be important to them, but important to you and important to the football world, but they just don't know, or they just don't care. Other than that, if it's about their guy, they ain't trying to hear that. They're trying to hear the positive stuff. So
yeah, isn't it kind of weird how you kind of get in this camp of one side or the other, and that everybody else is a hater, right? If
Tribalism is real. It's very real.
And it's weird. Like, I love Jayden Daniels, and I think he should be the pick. But I'm not to the point where I'm going to sort of cast aside anybody else who thinks Drake Maye is the guy. I mean, that's a great opinion. And especially if the team ends up deciding to draft that guy, Drake Maye or JJ McCarthy, I'm not going to be one of those guys who say, oh, I'm out. I'm out. I can't believe that they did that. Jayden Daniels is clearly the pick. I mean, these people know so much more than we do. So it's just weird the sides people are taking. And if you're one side, you're anti the other side. And it really shouldn't be that way.
Yeah. Just because I like JJ McCarthy over the other two doesn't mean that, again, that I don't like the other quarterbacks. Now, who I do like are those who are coming in the chat already here. Locked on Law, Allison, Brian, the Code Talker, Derek, who is a Drake Maye fan, TJ in the house. So same with Uptown Dre. Doug here is right. Hesitant about both, but equally hopeful. We have a great coaching staff that I think is on board to be able to really help whoever it is that they take at 2. there are flaws in each of the games. Now I know JJ McCarthy, when we've talked about him, we're like it's not apparent, right? The flaws aren't jumping off the screen. His biggest thing is like he just doesn't have a lot of tape on him.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't asked to be it and stuff like that, but he does. He throws constant, fastballs. He doesn't put on enough touch on throws. He has an issue throwing to his left. Those are real things for JJ McCarthy. For Drake Maye, the inconsistency, right? Like when you look at his completion percentage, it's much lower than the others. It's not significantly lower, but I mean, the guy could end up being Sam Darnold for all we know. A lot of people want to put him into the Josh Allen camp because he was in a smaller school, wasn't at, has the physical traits, but wasn't, great at completion.
Yeah.
Well, Josh Allen's one of one. Like that was such an anomaly that he was able to continue in his NFL career, improving his completion percentage. A lot of these QBs come in and they just don't work out. And then Gus is asking me, what is my concern about Jayden Daniels? And quite frankly, it is what he does under pressure.
Yeah.
He takes sacks or he runs for it. And that's not going to work out in the NFL. You need a QB who is going to, stand and deliver, is the term that the Ringer actually put out there for make sure I get the gents' names here. Danny Kelly and Slowick, Bobby Slowick, I believe.
Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans.
This is why. Hold on, Benjamin Solak. That's the name.
That makes more sense to me.
Benny Boy here. They put together a nice thing. Some of it's tape watching, some of it's statistic. And on Jayden Daniels, he has a stand and deliver that's less than 40% more. And this is something I've seen from other statistics as well. If you look at PFF, if you look at Cubase and everything, which is formerly Football Outsiders, but he takes a sack or scrambles 50% of the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is a scary, scary thing. We've talked about how sacks in drives, they don't score points. Scrambling, everybody talks about him potentially being injured. Running quarterbacks don't get injured more than non-running quarterbacks, but his frame is going to come in there, and he might end up looking like Trev here, who's got one arm.
Trev, why do you have it looks like some sort of sling over your shoulder? What's going on?
It's a seatbelt because I'm buckled up for the episode. That's what it's, a seatbelt. No, okay, guys, here it is. It is a sling. I have fractured my elbow. Work accident. Everything's all good. I'm out 2 weeks from work. So, yeah.
And people are concerned about JD. We got Trev here, who's of similar build.
But I'm 37 years old. I can't heal as fast as a 21, 22-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you listen to some JD haters, they'll tell you Jayden Daniels is going to be 30 by the time camp starts. So
yeah, that's crazy, Trev, man.
So, yeah, you never know how much you need your elbow and how many different random things it encounters until you injure your elbow. So
yeah,
I got to do some physical therapy too as well. So no surgery. That's good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah,
well, we definitely wish you all the healing vibes there, Trev. I didn't mean to call you out for the injury, but hopefully everybody here in the chat can send you those healing vibes as well. But those are kind of my concerns for each of them. Trev, what are your concerns for the QBs that are available at Washington or for Washington?
Drake Maye, does he understand the game or not? Does he catch on quickly? NFL speed is different than ACC speed, let alone college speed. The lack of inexperience of the starting quarterback, that's my concern. Jayden Daniels, his frame, I know people are like, no, whatever, but he was taking a lot of hits and bouncing back, thankfully, luckily. But like I said, you're going up against grown men now. 30 years old, 29, 32-year-old grown men coming at you 100 times faster You might take a hit, might not see the field again, or for a couple of weeks. So just his frame, like his he's kind of reckless with his body in the when he runs a little bit. And then JJ McCarthy, I like him, but I can see him turning into a Mac Jones type NFL quarterback. Like Mac Jones was really nice at Alabama. He had some weapons around him, dink and dunk kind of guy with Mac Jones a little bit in Alabama. And that's the kind of quarterback JJ McCarthy is for the most part. He has some deep throws, likes to throw across the middle, but he's a more conservative type quarterback. And I just don't know if he's going to be too careful. It could bite him in the butt. And we're looking to trade him in 2 years or release him in 2 years, the similar as Mac Jones. So I don't know. And then Michael Penix Jr., last one. I like Michael Penix Jr., but he does have quite an injury history just from college, let alone at Indiana and Washington. 2 torn ACLs, I think a couple shoulder injuries, something like that. That's a lot of beat up for a college kid coming into the NFL where it's a whole different world.
He's not actually really accurate either. Is one of the things that really comes out there. Yeah,
like he's got that nice, wild, he can get it to where he needs to be sometimes, but the accuracy does come into play. So that's just my biggest concerns for the ones that are available at 2.
All right, Stoner. How about you? The concerns before the pick is in here.
Let me just go kind of a little bit of a different route on my concerns, because all the concerns are really, they're well documented, and you can ask any of the experts. So, so-called experts out there, and they all have different concerns about every quarterback. We just don't know. But really, here's my concern kind of on a big picture level, is that when these 3 quarterbacks, and let's just go with these 3, and maybe if you want to add JJ McCarthy, but I'm including Caleb Williams in this. Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, if they go 1, 2, 3 as predicted, which I'm pretty sure they will, 2 of those are probably going to fail. And nobody thought, if you look back in the history of the NFL draft, nobody thought those guys were going to fail when they were picked 1, 2, 3 or top 5 or whatever, right? But they just do. If you think about the last time they went 1, 2, 3 was the Trevor Lawrence. Help me out here with who was 2 and 3. That was Trey Lance was 3. Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. 2 of those are absolute busts. And the number 1 overall generational type quarterback, number 1, Trevor Lawrence, still kind of to be determined. I think he's that guy. And then you go back many years ago, and it was Tim Couch, Donovan McNabb, Akili Smith. 2 of the 3 were absolute busts. And Donovan McNabb, got close to being an all-time kind of quarterback. That's what I'm most scared about. Of these 3 that we're looking at, and we're saying, this is the guy we're going to build our entire franchise. Adam Peters is going to stake his entire reputation as a GM type guy. Dan Quinn is going to put his second turn into coaching. Cliff Kingsbury is going to be the offensive coordinator and put his entire reputation as a guy who can or cannot coach quarterbacks. They're all going to put it on one guy, and that guy just might end up failing. And that's really what concerns me the most. Just, we can break down every facet of their game, but 2 of these 3 guys are probably going to fail,
if not all of them, and that includes Caleb Williams. It's such a hard thing to determine which QBs are going to be successful. Like, there's just no model that's going to work, a metric model, right? You can't just look at the stats and be like, and drives and be like, okay, this is it. And you can't just look at tapes, because sometimes the tape, I know people don't want to hear this, right? We got the little sniff test and everything, the Stoner sniff test. Sometimes that lies, right? Stoner was a believer by mid-season on Sam Howell and put a video out that was Sam Howell as him. And look how that has aged. Like milk sitting out here in a hot Oklahoma sun. It's just not easy to do. And as Command D says, right, it's a complete crapshoot. And so Washington's trying to put itself in there. We've talked about Adam Peters surviving this pick, right? Dan Quinn might not. If Dan Quinn's not successful with this pick, Dan Quinn will end up being gone. But Adam Peters can survive this pick. If he picks Jayden Daniels and Jayden Daniels doesn't work, he's going to get Adam Peters will get a second shot. I do believe that. What would hinder that ability though is if he takes Jayden Daniels at 2 and JJ McCarthy is successful somewhere else, or Drake Maye ends up flourishing or at least being serviceable. Then it's kind of like, wait, hold on, is this going to be there? I firmly believe he's going to get a second chance. I believe in this, the team that we're putting together. And I know we all wear our burgundy and gold glasses at this time of the season, right? Where it's just, we believe it. We're full of optimism, but I mean, there's a lot of things that are changing here for Washington. Things are being done different. We're going to talk about those hires in the grab bag, as well as getting to some of the questions that we receive throughout the night that can be answered there in the cool down section. So I do want to pitch that one more time now that we've got nearly 200 people here watching us. It is going to be user questions in the cool down. So make sure you get those in for us. I'm starring them as we go along. Gus Bus had a great one with Caleb Williams. And Locked On Law here has one that we're going to answer. I'm going to answer right now. This was in regards to Jayden Daniels' line. His offensive line wasn't bad. He's not having top guys drafted like, some other ones, but it's when we're talking to pressure to sack ratio type stuff, those are the pressures he can control, and he's taking sacks. It could be a problem. It could be a problem. Maybe it's something that he can get coached out of him. Who knows? Because we have a lot going on for Washington. But right now, the pick is in. March Madness QB edition. Jayden Daniels, clear winner here. But was he the clear winner in Top Golf? We'll have to talk about it. Bob thinking Top Golf shows that we're a Mickey Mouse operation. Do you agree or disagree? Talk to us when we get to the game. Welcome to the game here on episode 169 of Ref the District. I originally had planned a Hunger Games theme type deal when it was found out that Washington was going to have all of the top 30 visits coming in at the same time, to include Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr. They were all going to be here. And I was just like, I loved it. I thought it was going to be a fun thing to do, a Hunger Games thing. And then they one-up me, and they take them out to Top Golf to kind of loosen people up and have a little fun. What do you guys make? Are you with Bob? Are you against Bob? When it comes to the Top Golf making this kind of a Mickey Mouse operation here for Adam Peters and company?
I don't think it's a Mickey Mouse operation. I mean, come on, that's a little extreme to make of opinion, which you're entitled to, but it's extreme for this incident. I'll admit, when I first heard that, I was like, what? That's kind of weird. Like, why would they do that? Like, But then as more reports came out, it's more focused on the interaction of peers and how you are as a human being outside of football. I think that's pretty cool. It's clear that we're going to choose one of the ones. It was kind of interesting that Michael Penix kind of joined in last minute. I think he missed the Top Golf event because he got here, I think, today instead of last night. But still, he's there at the facility today with everybody else. That's pretty cool. It's apparently he did this in San Francisco and in Denver or New England. Adam Peters did the same thing with some prospects. And I think there's more than them there at the same time. So 20 some people are there together. So could be future quarterback, offensive linemen playing together. Could be future teammates playing together. They just want to, interact and get them on a personal level. I think that's kind of cool. I mean, they're kids after all. Let's not forget. They're just 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. So yeah, I mean, they got to have a little fun in their life too. So I think this is cool.
So two things I want to get to, because you're right on that one, Trev, and Gus touches on that here as well. Where else are you taking a bunch of 22-year-olds? The club? I mean, these are young guys. I mean, some of these guys are probably barely old enough to drink, for goodness sakes. Brian What is Top Golf? I don't get out much. Sorry. So I do have an image. If you're watching this live on YouTube, you can see it there, and Brian has a good chance at that. But if you're listening to this on audio, because we do put this out on audio afterwards, it is a Top Golf, specifically an image I found of Top Golf London County. So it's the one that they were supposed to be going to. And it's a fancy driving range is the best way to explain it. Okay. They have multiple tiers. They have a bar, a kitchen. There's games that you can play, and you just have some general fun. A lot of work events end up here as a team building exercise, or just a way to kind of blow off some steam. So that is my explanation of Top Golf. If anyone wants to chime in on that specifically, you guys can. But Stoner, who rises to the top in a setting like this? Because this is deliberate from Adam Peters, and Josh Harris was going to sit in, maybe not at Top Golf, but he was going to sit in during some of the interactions Adam Peters had. But this is a very deliberate choice. Who comes out on top when you put all of them in the same room together?
I think probably that's where leaders are established in group settings like that. You find out who leaders are, you can also kind of find out who the competitive guys are, right? Who are the guys just kind of lounging around and soaking it in and hanging out and being a Bravo male, right? Just somebody who follows. Or you can see guys who want to get out there and lead and say, challenge other guys who loves competition. Those are the kind of guys that I think stand out. But I think Yam kind of nailed it that you put up earlier, is that it's different, and people like to mock things that are different because they don't understand it, because it hasn't been done before in terms of Top Golf. Like Trev said, that Adam Peters has done this in his past. He's got a whole bunch of guys in at one time and kind of sees that interaction and tells a lot about different guys. So I think that part of it's really great. I think it's a great idea. It's a concept that nobody else is doing, right? And again, it's different, but I think it's something that's kind of setting the standard, setting the tone, saying we're just not going to sit back and do it like everybody else has always done it. We've got innovative ways to figure out who the best guys are. And it wasn't just the quarterbacks, right? Nathan, you said 25 some guys that were out there, all different kinds of guys. And so you get to learn a whole lot about a lot of different guys. How does, for example, Jayden Daniels interact with a Drake Maye, for example? Does he find him does have the type of personality that he doesn't get along with because Drake Maye is a competitor? Some, things like that. So you find out a lot about these different guys. And I think it's a great idea. I have no problem with doing it. Top Golf just happens to be the place that they did it. Who cares where it really is? But just the fact that they're doing it different is something that I can really appreciate. And let's not forget also, they had private meetings with all these players prior to going to Top Golf.
They've been combine, pro day.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about even like yesterday. They sat down with for 20 minutes with each
today they're doing
yesterday
that.
And today. Yeah. And those are the Josh Harris, the ones. Yeah, Josh Harris.
That's where I think a lot of it's going to end up happening. And as Trev, you were mentioning, this isn't the first time for most of them. I think Michael Penix Jr. is the only one who, the big names didn't attend his pro day. But outside of that, I mean, these are ones they're very familiar with, and Washington's just trying to get that second look. And I also loved the idea of bringing them all in, seeing how they interact together, getting them uncomfortable, and also getting them comfortable, right? Top Golf is something like, hey, loosen up a little bit. They don't want those canned responses. They don't want the players to just, hey, this is what my agent told me. This is what my coach told me. Coach Harbaugh, what Harbaugh was saying, hey, this is what they want to hear. They want the players to kind of, relax a little bit, open up, and come down to it. And it's interesting because it is, you're talking about leadership, and maybe the alpha dogs come to, the thing. And I think that's what Dan Quinn was talking about, right? Like they want that mentality. And so maybe someone who's more of an extrovert is going to shine in that setting, or maybe there is a quiet leadership in a Jayden Daniels or maybe JJ McCarthy who can come out, because sometimes being an extrovert is a hindrance because maybe you're too boorish, right? Maybe you're too over the top and people don't want to be that. So you got to be able to back it up. And I just had this mental image of one of the QBs tricking the other QBs to like go out for a pass, right? Like how alpha could you be in that moment to just be like, just pick up something from the table and be like, hey, Drake, go out for a pass, and showing like, oh yeah, that guy just did what I told him to. That to me, those kind of mind games would be hilarious. To be a fly on the wall during the Top Golf thing and seeing how that was for each individual, it just would have been something outstanding to see here. I think you're right. I think the outside the box thinking has gotten some people kind of thinking it's a Mickey Mouse operation, as Bob had kind of mentioned earlier, because there are some people who don't like this concept and they think that something more formal. But I think what's here for Washington and what we're going to see working for Washington is doing stuff like this. Now they are in a position of power, and the reason why they're able to get all three QBs, all four QBs, including Penix and a whole bunch of others, and at the deadline, because today is the deadline. Wednesday is the last day people can do top 30 visits before the draft, meaning from Thursday on, you're cut off. No more contact with the draft. No more. All your research has to be done inside the building with whatever tape, whatever numbers, and whatever notes you have from tomorrow on. And so this is their last opportunity. In Washington, holding that second pick overall, has the power to be able to bring in these names and do this. And if you look at Adam Peters from his time in San Francisco, and you're trying to glean what you could possibly learn from these top 30 visits, is there's genuine interest. We've seen under Ron Rivera, the top 30 visits, they don't end up drafting anybody from the top 30 visit. Now, again, it's how the board kind of plays out. But for 49ers, if they're bringing you in for a top 30 visit, there tends to be some interest. And I have the list of names if anyone is curious, because I know we had Uptown Dre asking if Keon Coleman or Johnny Boy Wilson were a part of them. And the names are as follows. I'm just going to rattle them off here. Isaiah Adams, Eric All, Kieran Amadea, Austin Booker, Jarvis Brownlee, Brandon Coleman, Jayden Daniels, Rod Gaddison, Cam Hart, Jalix Hunt, Javonte Jean-Baptist, Elijah Jones, Marshawn Nealon, Tyrese Knight, Drake Maye, JJ McCarthy, Jordan Morgan, Michael Penix Jr., Chop Robinson, Roger Rosengarten, Javonte Sanders, Caden Wallace, Trayvon Wallace, Jared Wiley, all were a top 30 visit. So no Uptown Dre. I didn't hear Keon Coleman or Johnny Boy Wilson.
I thought a lot about this whole Top Golf and top 30 visit deals. And if you are familiar with Ref the District, I will nitpick and I will find everything I can to kind of criticize about the team. And if there's something I don't like about what they're doing or what's going on or what they're saying, I'll say something, right?
Yeah,
and I get criticized pretty heavily, but I've been right on a lot of these, by the way, starting all the way back with the whole Chase Young
oh my gosh,
voluntary OTAs. But I don't see it, Nathan. I think this is a fantastic opportunity to do things out of the box and do things differently and get to learn about these guys. And you're doing it with a bunch of professionals who take this job seriously and understand what this job right now, this year, this draft means to the rest of their career. So I think, again, I just think it's a great idea, and I'm excited, and I hope I heard some names on there that I'm excited about that I hope that they do end up drafting in the second, third, fourth round as well. And of course, the first round, Jayden Daniels being there. So yeah, I'm really happy about them doing this, and I don't fully understand the criticism.
Now, one of the things that was a buzz in Twitter was the arrival of the QBs. And the person who had recorded the videos, Capital, I forget the name handle. It doesn't really matter. Kind of a creeper thing. Capital Paparazzi.
Oh,
is what he's going by.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. He even tracked down Ron Rivera, was in the airport, and he happened to pester Ron Rivera over what does it mean, because he started the rumor that Gregory here is asking about. Heard Washington sent a car for Daniels from the airport, only one they did that for. To go one step further, Capital Paparazzi had pushed out a picture of Dan Quinn and said that Jayden Daniels was the only one picked up from the airport by Dan Quinn. The others had to take a generic Uber.
So which one is true then?
Keim and Adam Greer reaffirmed all were taken together from the airport. There was some sensationalism that was going on, as you might expect from a guy or a person who goes by the title Capital Paparazzi.
Okay.
But it definitely became a little buzz over there.
I mean, that's just not going to happen. You have something that is so kind of thought out, and the details are so they're so detailed that they're not going to sit there and say, well, we're going to do one thing for everybody except for Jayden Daniels. I mean, it's just not going to happen. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
But it is kind of funny, I guess, when that stuff kind of gets pushed around, but it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just crazy because it was just like, you think an organization, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, who have been very good up to this point about not showing their hand, are all of a sudden going to tip their hand by making it that obvious.
Right.
Like that is the most obvious you can make it.
Exactly. That's exactly
and some of the guys, the insiders that you talk to, not that we talk to, but that you hear from, they have all said the same thing, Nathan. They've basically said that there is absolutely nothing coming out of Washington. Even guys who are saying, well, I think this is what they're going to do, but I have no idea because there's no leaks. Nobody knew this top 30 thing was going to happen until it happened. Nobody even got in on these interviews, who it was going to be, until it happened. That's how good they've been with controlling the information out of there. So
up through the weekend, the going idea was that Jayden Daniels was going to be here. Then it was going to be Drake Maye. Then it was going to be JJ McCarthy right at the deadline. And that's how people were reporting and going through. And then all of a sudden there's a switch up and they're all going to be there Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
No one knew about the Top Golf thing until it was happening. And so Adam Peters, kudos to him because he has everybody tripping. And Adam Schefter gets on Trap or Dive. We mentioned that. In fact, it was on the Pat McAfee show. Get your Jayden Daniels jerseys ready. Like it's okay to go ahead and purchase it. He has not since walked it back. I'm not going to go that far to say that he's walked it back, but he's expanded on that idea of just essentially that Adam Schefter is going with Jayden Daniels because who he talks to, Jayden Daniels is becoming the consensus top, second best quarterback. So that's why he thinks Washington's going to go that route, just because what he's hearing from scouts and the people that he talks to is that Jayden Daniels is the consensus, second best quarterback. But it's not based off of anything he's heard here. Right.
It's not. It's really weird how tight the information has been. We're just not used to that. But also, I did hear from, I heard something that Bill Belichick said, and I believe it was on Pat McAfee's show as well. And he said that teams almost never leak
Mm-hmm.
information. It's the agents that do all the leaking. But
Yep.
even the agents have to kind of understand how it's going to benefit their guy when they do that. But we haven't even heard that. Sort of, it's just been no leaks out of Washington. You've heard leaks from a lot of the other teams, not out of Washington. You've just heard everybody says the same thing, that nobody knows what Washington is going to do.
Nobody knows.
No, I thought you had a mic issue there, Trev.
Oh no, I was just going. Like, everybody's being quiet, so I was like, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it is. It's fascinating, and we talked a little bit about the agent styles as we get closer to the draft. Right, we've left silly season, or sorry, we've left lying season, and we're in silly season because now you're having a bunch of people, the agents, the ones who are invested in their players, starting to push out information. Hey, could this guy be a second? Could this guy be a first round pick? Oh, this is really your best, offensive tackle. They start getting these organizations, and I think that some of it is also draft fatigue. We know that, right? We are, we've been talking about the draft for Washington. We've been talking about the draft since January, if not even before then, in December, right? And so, at this point, there's, when you're talking about just a few people who are going to be the right pick at 2, people get bored and start kind of looking elsewhere. Or as Yam says, we're 100% in smokescreen delusional fanboy season.
Yeah, no joke.
Absolutely. Out of these names that I listed, is there any one of them that you guys are excited about? So we've talked about 2 here on Ref the District already. Jordan Morgan was one of the ones that we had, and we actually don't have the other one that we did we? He did not show up to this.
Chris Braswell?
Chris Braswell was not on a top 30 visit.
No. That's all right. There's some interesting offensive tackle names in there, as JG has there, and of course Jordan Morgan, and there's a lot of interesting tackles that are going to be available there at in the second round if they end up not trading back into the first round. But that was going to be one of my questions for the grab bag, though. So I'll hold on to that question, but. Of those guys that kind of were there that you mentioned, I really like that kid. Who's that kid from LSU? Was it Jayden Daniels? That's the guy I like. Of those that visited, I sure hope that they select that guy.
Same.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Gregory's answer here. Nealand is somebody who I actually mentioned during the Braswell video that we did. Nealand has a lot of similar traits to Braswell. It's the difference between going to Western Michigan and going to Alabama.
Sure.
But the very similar kind of traits. Yeah. So, but I mean, you have a lot of people love Chop Robinson. That's a guy that they had come in, and Javante Jean Baptist, defensive edge out there at Notre Dame, came. So it looks like they're looking at that. Austin Booker is somebody who's been coming on lately here in the last couple of weeks. People starting to kind of come in and saying Austin Booker looks like a good talent to take within the top 100. What do you guys make of the fact that there's not a running back on this list and there's not a wide receiver on this list?
I think the wide receiver position is deep enough to where they don't have to necessarily go grab the most popular guy and have a top 30 visit. They might like somebody who's not top 30 that can fit what they're looking for, just the same as a top 30. Running back too, that's not probably a deep enough position in the draft, but I think we're pretty set on running back. I think we'll do like we did with Rodriguez last year. You get him in the 6th or 7th round, just to have somebody at camp and maybe a practice squad body. But that's what I think. That's why they're not on the top 30, because we can find one of those gems at either position. So
I think you prefaced it earlier, Nathan, that Adam Peters kind of has a track record of drafting guys that he brings in for top 30 visits. But as some of those comments that you popped up earlier is, there does need to be some deception a little bit to make it look like you're interested in some guys or not interested in other guys to
Right.
have them fall to you at certain numbers. So don't show interest in Xavier Legette, right? And then when he's there at 40, you nail him, you grab him because people don't think that you're going to get him, and so they don't worry about him. So there does have to be some deception there, but also, there's only so many guys that you're going to be able to have. You only get 30, right? That's why it's called the top 30. You only get those 30 visits. So there's only so many guys that you can do. And there might be guys that don't even want to come and visit you if they don't want to, if they don't see themselves going to you, that it might be wasting their time. So there's just a lot of deception that goes on in there, along with really wanting to see certain guys and talk to certain guys behind the scenes. So, but it was interesting that you said that about Adam Peters. Does like to draft guys that he brings in for visits.
The math, or the man, the myth, the legend from X or Twitter over there, Xavier Legette is the next AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel. If that's the case, that might be somebody there. Locked on Law feeling pretty good about that one as well. I do feel like it's interesting that there's no wide receivers on here at all. Not even one of the late round guys who maybe they want to see, maybe a smaller school guy. There's actually mainly, I would say, there's bigger schools here. There's a few smaller schools. You can maybe consider Yale small school, even though technically it's not. But I mean, Western Carolina, Houston Christian, Western Michigan, UTEP. These are some of the smaller schools. But outside of that, most of these are Power 5 programs. To your point, Trev, Jared Wiley, Jatavian Sanders, and Eric all tight ends Washington's looking at. So maybe we're expecting a shakeup at that position. Eric Iowa tight end. I mean, that's 2 boxes checked right there.
Right.
I mean, that's it. That's
tight end in Iowa.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Now you can move on from there. I know we've taken them in one of our mock drafts that we've done. I know a lot of people love Jatavian Sanders out of Texas as a tight end. And I haven't read up on Jared Wiley, but now I'm going to have to because Washington invited him here for a top 30 visit. And like I mentioned in San Francisco, I don't think it tipped the hand as much as it just showed genuine interest. And so I agree. We had Command D's and another comment where you mentioned Stoner, Deluxe, right? You only have so many, you can't tip your hand and all this. I think Adam Peters doesn't want to play games too much with that. He has other games he can be playing. These are ones that he's doing. They're trying to get the legwork in. So when we're talking about these particular players, I think there's genuine interest in getting a Roger Rosengarten, offensive tackle from Washington, or Caden Wallens from tackle from Penn State. Like, these are legit players that I think Washington might. I know we're all team move up for a tackle in the first, but that one might not be. That might not be in the books. It seems like if they're looking at this many tackles, they're looking to just hold back and take one at 36 or 40.
And you mentioned Xavier Legette, and a lot of people I think Lockdown loves Xavier Legette. We're going to have a player profile on him next week on either Monday or Tuesday, and also along with Ben Sinnott, tight end, or Sinnott. I don't know how to, Sinnott. We're going to have those two next week, Monday and Tuesday, as our player focus and who we kind of want Washington to draft. Those are two guys that both Nathan and I think, we'll see. We're going to debate it, of two guys that we'd like to see in Washington. But next week's a big week, right? Next week's draft.
Next week's the draft, and we've got a couple different things going on when it comes to the draft. One, we have those 2 videos. Those will be out Monday and Tuesday. We, of course, will be streaming live Wednesday, as we do every Wednesday night at 7:30 Eastern. And then on draft day, well, it's Trev. Are you going to be there now?
Yes, I will be there now.
Yes.
I do
Universe.
I'm not going to celebrate your injury, Trev, but I'm totally going to celebrate you joining us because we will be live on draft night for at least the first 10 picks. We will be there a little bit early. We are going to have a live giveaway, at least one. A Sean Taylor jersey is being planned to be given away. So
a real Sean Taylor
jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Stoner says.
Yeah.
So those are some good things happening. I know that Tommy last week had asked, are we going to do day 2? And I've kind of petitioned behind the scenes to do a day 2, but I don't think it's going to work out. Friday night, not particularly great for a lot of people. So I don't think the plan right now is to do a day 2 of the draft. If things change between now and then, we'll be sure to let you know as far as that's concerned. But day 2 is going to be very big for Washington. You can be sure that we'll have all sorts of good information for you coming out from the draft over the weekend and into the next week as well. So make sure you tune in on Thursday night because we will be live and giving away at least one item. And that one item is a Sean Taylor jersey.
We're going to give away some Ref the District swag as well, right? To some others as well. Got to be there, though. Got to be there live. We're going to have some cool guests, too. We're lining up some great guests, some ex-NFLers, some local radio personalities, radio and / TV personalities. So we've got it's going to be a big time show.
We can have a doctor coming on. Maybe they can do a checkup on Trev.
Yeah,
that'd be nice. I can throw in my retro Carson Wentz Commanders jersey, you guys. It's not signed, but it is a retro.
Yeah,
last year Carson Wentz.
Yeah, the doctor thing I think is going to be really cool because one of the big sort of checks in the negative column for Jayden Daniels is his size and his frame. And so we're going to talk to that doctor about whether he thinks that really is a negative or whether that's something that's overblown for a quarterback in the NFL at 210 pounds, 6'4", almost 6'4",
6'3" ish.
Yeah. 6'4", 6'3", 5'8".
Remember that picture?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what mine looks like.
Yeah. So that's going to be fun.
We're getting some good questions from the man, the myth, the legend. We're going to be getting to that in the grab bag. We've got a couple from them on X there on Twitter. So we'll be sure to get to those in the grab bag. There was one earlier pertaining to the conversation at hand, which is, does Tight End University, aka Iowa, have a tight end coming out this draft? They seem to be a tight end factory we should pluck from. This coming from Grimjaw, and it is one of the ones that Washington had, Eric All. I wouldn't get too terribly excited for Eric All as far as like thinking that he's going to fit the mold of some of the Iowa tight ends from past years. He's probably closer to a Bates than he is. Who's the young stud in Detroit?
I know. I've already forgotten. I was just thinking about that. The Iowa rookie. Yeah,
Laporta. Yeah, Sam Laporta. He's not going to be Sam Laporta. So curb a little bit of excitement there, but it is somebody that Washington has invited out and is maybe gonna looking at as far as a pick there. Don't sleep on some of these players and don't sleep on our previews that we've done leading up to the draft. In fact, don't sleep yourself by heading over to don'tsleepenergy.com. Use the code DISTRICT to get yourself 10% off your entire order. That supports us. It supports a local DMV company, as Don't Sleep is right there from the DC area, local owned business, and you can do yourselves a favor by supporting them by buying their products. That's don'tsleepenergy.com and the code DISTRICT to get 10% off your entire order. Don't sleep energy makes you great. Well, gents, I think we've talked a little bit about all of the top 30 visits and the top golf visit. It is going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. I haven't seen anything from it today. I was digging around and I was looking, but nothing was coming out there. So why don't we move into the cool down where we can talk about both the new hires and take questions from the viewers. Stick with us. Welcome to the cool down in episode 169. It's the grab bag here on Ref the District. Taking questions from people as they come in. We'll make sure to star them. And as we talk about them, as some of the more questions come in, we have a couple sandbagged already. I'm going to bring over some of the information that we did want to talk about in this era. The first one is the image we see here right now was the hiring of his title is ridiculous. Okay. So it's going to be the team's senior vice president of football initiatives, Dave Gardy or Jardy, possibly going to handle, according to Adam Schefter, the report is that Jardy will now handle assorted in-game management duties and will support the coaching staff and front office on a compliance with league protocols, officiating trends, health and safety guidelines. Trev, what do you make of this hire from Josh Harris here? This reportedly going to be in the booth with the headset on during game time situations, kind of being in here. What do you make of that?
Probably something that's been needed in this organization for a long time, and we might be shocked because we actually made that hire. I never knew there was such a thing in my life. This is the first time I've ever heard of that position. The person who we hired is the first time I ever heard of him. So we're doing things the right way. Other organizations probably already have this in line or probably doing the same thing. But we around here just never even heard of it. Or if we did, it was a different title and a different duties. But hey, I'm all for it. We've been doing the right thing since Josh Harris took over the organization. So I feel like every hire that we get is nothing but the positive type of hire. So I'm supportive. He can be in the booth. He can be on the sideline. He could be in my house on my couch. I don't care as long as he's going to help this team out, especially with the health and the health issues that we have. That's going to be sweet. So I'm for it.
I think I've done a little bit of research on the guy too. I mean, he was in the NFL offices for like the past 20 plus years. And everything that I've heard and read about him is that he is just a class act #1 male kind of dude, right? He is all that you want in your organization. And how he came to work for Josh Harris in Washington is surprising to a lot of people, on how he actually decided to leave the NFL offices, a cush job. I'm sure he was making plenty, but I've just heard nothing but great things about him. Whether or not it'll work out in terms of what he's doing is obviously still to be determined, but it's another piece of that puzzle to where they're doing things a little bit different, but it's not just kind of let's go into work and let's sort of figure it out as we go along. This is a well-planned, intelligent operation that's going on right now. All that being said, you got to draft the right guy #2 if it's all going to work. So we'll see. He doesn't have any input on that, but man, it's just really cool to kind of see these hires that they're making, and you're just like, well, we've never had that position in this organization, but apparently we lacked it because a lot of people agreed that this is something that should be done. So I'm excited when I see these sorts of hires. They get me really fired up about the organization that we have in place.
So not to diminish this in any way, because I do think
here we go.
Interesting.
Here we go.
Well, I'm just trying to shine some light, because we've gone through this before, right? When Adam Peters was hired, I just wanted to remind everybody we were very excited about Scott McLugan, right? And this is
The glue
something
again is money.
yeah. I butchered that guy's poor
I
name.
love when
every
you
time.
butcher names because it's just
I
fun.
did too.
It's fun to
It
goof
is.
on you too.
Look,
Glue
look.
again.
I don't mean to be. I don't want
Jimmy
my
Combs.
calling card to be an ignoramus who can't pronounce people's names because I feel like that's a little
Jaguar.
disrespectful. Yeah,
Trubinsky.
Jaguar, you guys.
Yeah.
Anyways, off track here. Not to diminish it, but in the similar vein as that Adam Peters and the Scott notion here is Washington under the former owner did lure somebody who was coveted and well respected from the front office to kind of take over the books here in DC, and people were shocked and people thought it was a great hire and somebody who was really turned things around. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head right now.
You put it in the chat. LaFemina.
Yeah.
Brian LaFemina.
There we go. Yep. There we go, Gus. Thanks. Exactly. And this is what I wanted to bring up is Brian LaFemina. Is this feels this kind of very similar to that, where it's just like, yeah, this is supposed to be good, but is it going to work out? Now, full disclosure, I'm pro this move, and I feel it's different from before because the former guy's not here.
That's right.
And if we remember Brian LaFemina, he left. He was here for a year and was just like, nope, never mind.
I'm not working for this guy.
Not working, right? I feel like this is going to be different from that because of that kind of aspect. But I don't want us to get too excited thinking that what this is, what we've heard a lot, which is seeking edges in a game of inches, right?
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of what's been talked about with this is it's a salary cap league. So if you can't spend it on players, spend it on the infrastructure, spend it on ways that you can beat other people by doing something like that. And maybe it works out. But I don't want us to get our hopes up thinking that this is just a great thing.
Also, this hire, along with all the other ones we've made, makes you sit back and be like, and think like, man, people want to come work for Adam Peters, for Josh Harris, even though we haven't seen any lick of playing on the field at all this season, haven't even gotten to the draft. But to get all these well-regarded NFL executives, coaches, former whatevers and former whatevers to come here to a place like Washington that's had a dark cloud over the past 30 years. I know people said change can't happen in a year. Yes, it can. Josh Harris has come in and completely changed this entire organization. Adam Peters too, Dan Quinn. It just speaks volumes about the stature of the hires that we're making. It's a really cool thing and a really nice thing to see. You know what I mean? So, like you said, we don't know if it's going to work out or not, but we're given the opportunity to see.
Yeah, it's fair to be skeptical, Nathan. I sort of get it, but we have to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt because again, what's his title again? Senior vice president of something that we never heard of.
Some initiative thing. Yeah.
It's not like he's replacing some guy who got fired from that job. This is a completely new position that if you're going to take a guy who's been working at the NFL offices for the past 20 plus years, you're going to have to pay him a ton of money, which is going to come out of Josh's pockets or, the team's pockets. Like you said, they're spending money where they can because they can't spend it on players because they have a limited amount. So they're creating positions. They're hiring people. Who was the lady that they hired on the staff? She's like director of staff, right? On the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Right. You never had a director of coaching staff. And I don't know how many other teams have it, but they're creating ways to do things, management type ways to do things that to me gets me pretty excited about this. It's fair to be skeptical. You got PTSD with the previous guy, and I totally get it. But these are the types of things that get me really excited. Top golf and hiring people for jobs we never heard of. And like Trev said, bringing people in that want to come here and important positions and important people that want to come and work here, important coaches that want to come and work here, and important free agents that want to come. This is a whole new thing. Whether or not it leads to the bottom line of winning, we'll have to wait and see, right, Trev? I mean, You can change an organization in a year, but that's not necessarily going to result in wins and losses. And this is the bottom line business. It has to come down to wins and losses. And again, it's all going to come back to number 2, what they do at quarterback.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing people asking in the chat, do other teams ran like this? Probably, but just ours hasn't been for the past 30 years.
It's new to us.
Why I think, it's new and flashy and shiny to us, and we're excited about it because for the longest time we weren't operating like a normal NFL.
And I think it kind of goes back to the process Josh Harris had to pick Adam Peters and then to pick a coach. He brought in a variety of people, some people in the basketball world, right? And then some people in the football world.
Right.
And they're trying to tackle what's the game of NFL from a different way because we haven't been successful for 3 decades, right? Nearly 4 decades. And so I do agree, and I am excited, but right now we're on a wait and see approach with it because I think most people are with Grimjaw here in case and didn't even know about the hire. What is this person even going to do? Right? What is he hired to do? Is the question.
We don't really know either. Not fully.
And, right? I mean, you heard the title. It was a bunch of blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Senior vice president of football initiatives or whatever. Right? We used to make up titles in the military too because. When you're writing a performance report, you can't just be a staff sergeant. You had to be in charge of something. So it's just you're the NCO in charge of Gook because it will just make it sound like you're important, even if you're not. And I feel like some of this is happening here in Washington. What we know is this person's supposed to be on the headset during games. They've worked with the NFL rule book in some cases, kind of made some of the changes and is a big part of that. So you have this feeling and they're supposed to help out with game time situations, right? Yeah. So they're, if it's time to challenge or if they're supposed to be like taking a timeout or watching those kind of things, that's where this person I think is supposed to come into play. So hopefully we start to see that, working, in there. Yeah. Locked on law. Absolutely. Right. When you're the E6, you're in charge of the E5s. That's absolutely it. You got to have those titles and those things. Otherwise you're no upward mobility when compared to your peers.
When there was a few years ago, 5 years ago, maybe or so, when Bill Belichick knew of this, remember that weird rule that he took advantage of? It had something to do with kicking or calling.
Wasn't it the eligibility rule? I thought.
I don't remember.
I want to say it was eligibility. I think that's why we ended up having to have players like go directly to a ref because he was able to game the system essentially of like changing right before the play because there was some obscure rule that he was able to abuse.
This is the guy who can take advantage of some of those things. And as somebody said earlier, football is a game of inches. And this is one way that you can have a slight advantage. If you get that little sliver of an advantage on the team, then it could be the difference again between a win and a loss. So that's what I like about it. If he's the guy who basically wrote the rule book, I love it. I love everything about it.
So the other hire we wanted to get to before we get to some of the questions from our listeners tonight is if you follow AJ Perez, we had him on during the sale and he had a article that went out that kind of details some of the things that are happening behind the scenes. One of those being that the Commanders hired Capitol Hill insider, and that person's name is Kirtan Mehta. Previously the chief of staff for Senator John Hickenlooper, as the team looks to kind of, what's that?
I said, I love Hickenlooper.
It's a fun name.
Great dude.
This kind of seems to me a hire that I think is kind of gone to the wayside when we're getting excited about a football initiative guy. This is the hire this is a person who's very familiar with how Congress is being run as the bill as the information goes through for DC to be able to control the area that is RFK Stadium, or in general, just having the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources taking up RFK Stadium legislation in the next month, but even just being able to get in there and kind of work the system. I feel like this one might be the bigger hire. At least in the sense of, I get that maybe the football initiatives dude is going to help win some football games, but this one's potentially going to impact all of us by possibly getting a stadium back in DC.
I hope something like that eventually does happen, because I would like to see the stadium back there.
That'd be nice. It's a positive step towards that direction, at least. I don't know how good it's really going to do. It's another wait and see hire, but yeah, it's a positive hire. You think it's bigger? You think it's bigger because of the stadium? You don't want to win now? Do you think the stadium is more important than winning now? I'm not saying you do. I'm just asking a question.
Oh, wow, that's putting a mouthful into me. No, I of course winning is more important, but I feel like I feel the advantage gained from Jardy being on a headset isn't going to be an impact that we see. Okay. Right. I don't feel like we're not going to see that interaction unless the cameras pan to him and they're saying he's doing like this motion, like you got to throw the flag type deal. Right. We're not going to see that happening. What we're going to see is, Dan Quinn being smart about his challenges, or the timeouts being more efficiently used, or obscure rule maybe kind of coming to play. These are things that I don't think we're going to naturally pick up. And we might be like, well, maybe that was this guy. Right. Whereas this particular hire, I feel, is going to be an impact that we can see. If RFK becomes a reality, then that's one that we're going to feel. That's one that we're going to see. That's one that's going to be a tangible thing in front of us.
Got you. Good answer.
And by the way, the Belichick thing that I was referring to was in 2019. He was taking intentional false start penalties at the end of the game, and it was making the clock start from the beginning, right? So he would get a penalty, and then they would start the play clock over when they were up and they were trying to waste time. So then it would start the game clock, and the clock would run all the way down, and then he would take another false start penalty. So it's third down, and 90 seconds runs off the clock, and they haven't done anything. They haven't moved the ball at all. And he said, I was just taking advantage of a loophole in the rules. So that's the kind of thing that maybe this guy can do because he knows the rules so well. Anyway.
Oh, good old Bill Belichick.
Ooh.
With whom didn't Magic...
I was going to say, can we talk about that real quick?
Might as well, before we get to the questions that I have started. We got 6 that I have started here.
I have one.
Okay. Stoner.
Mine is specifically for Trev.
Okay.
Trev, would you rather be the Wizards and be tanking and get a top 5 pick, or the Bulls, who are going to get knocked out in a play-in game tonight and be stuck in mediocrity like the Wizards used to?
I'll take the Bulls.
Bulls stink.
Position.
That was a setup question. Let's go, Nathan. Let's get to those
okay.
real questions.
Well, let's talk about the Magic thing you both were very excited about.
I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, rumor has it, a report. I'm not sure who put it out there, where it came from.
It was the ESPN report.
It was an ESPN. Do you remember the reporter? Was that John Keim, or was it one of the others?
ESPN.com, but I'll look it up real quick.
Yes, let's make sure we give them credit where credit's due. ESPN pushes out that Magic Johnson had pushed for Bill Belichick to come to town. Josh Harris didn't want it, had talked with Robert Kraft. Oh, that's right, because it was in the context of the Bill Belichick article. Bill Belichick, without a job, looking for a second chance, wasn't even Atlanta's number 3 choice. Magic Johnson, though, wanted him here. Are you for Magic Johnson pushing those buttons to try to see, as a minority owner, if we can get Bill Belichick.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a brand new era here. You might as well be. We were all preaching for us to be aggressive during the offseason this year, and Magic Johnson was doing just that. Atlanta really wanted him, but Arthur Blank didn't want him. So, and the article leads on to more of other things between him and Robert Kraft. But yeah, that's cool that Magic Johnson, once again, something that was on the hush.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were saying, well, what's Magic going to do? Like, he hasn't done anything since he's been in. Yes, he's been doing a lot of things, but behind the scenes, he's just not making it public. So that's cool. That shows that he wants to win, because he was documented on air at the press conference, whatever, said that he's about winning. And that's why he joined this place, because he knows Josh Harris wins and he's a winner himself, former Showtime Laker. So yeah, that's cool. If it would have worked, I'd be happy. Bill Belichick, I mean, that would have been cool. But yeah, I like the aggressiveness. I'm cool with it.
According to ESPN's Don Van Natta Jr., Seth Wickersham, and Jeremy Fowler, former Patriots head coach Belichick was very interested in the Washington opening. It was also reported that part owner Magic Johnson lobbied hard for Belichick to be the team's new head coach, but principal owner Josh Harris eventually superseded him and went in a different direction. So, and you know, I mean, those are top ESPN guys. Wickersham was all over the stuff that was going on with the cheerleaders and all that back when that happened. And Jeremy Fowler has been there, you know, forever. And Don Van Natta Jr. is a legal analyst kind of guy. So yeah, those are legit reports.
Yeah, very interesting here. I'm glad Bill Belichick isn't here.
Oh, yes.
Reports are that he's interested right now in the rest of the NFC East.
All three teams except Washington now.
I would hate to be in those positions, not the fan positions, because they do have some good teams there. But could you imagine being Dabble or McCarthy, who are already on hot seats, or Sirianni, who Doug Peterson got fired after winning a Super Bowl. You lost a Super Bowl. You have the owner coming down to you and saying, you got to fix this. And then having Bill Belichick breathing down your neck.
Yeah,
that is going to be hellacious for each of those teams as they go through that. Trev's going to take care of some stuff. We'll see him when he returns here. So we'll move to a 2-box until the time comes here. As we get into the grab bag, list of questions here from there. And if you have more questions, make sure they get put into the chat, and Stoner and I will do our best to star them to get further. Let's get to Gus Bus from way back in the warm up there. If Caleb Williams went back to USC, do you think Chicago still would have traded away Fields and then drafted Daniels #1 overall?
100%. Absolutely. I think they would do that. They were never, ever sold on Justin Fields after this year. I mean, how long was he there? Was it 3 seasons he was there? And he just never kind of got over that hump. They were ready to go in a new direction. And if Caleb Williams wasn't there, Jayden Daniels would be there at #1 for them. 100%.
Yeah, I think they were going to reset the QB market for themselves. I think that they kind of hit a wall. Jayden Daniels would be an interesting one, though, I think, because there are some similarities for who, between the two. I'm not saying 1-for-1 type deal. So I wonder if they would have tried to go maybe a Drake Maye route rather than going with another running quarterback to kind of distance themselves from Jayden Daniels, or go the Jayden Daniels route, because it did start to work there. Remember, Chicago has the 9th pick. That's their pick. So they started doing better towards the end of the season. So I do think that they would have moved on from Justin Fields, or maybe, I guess the wild card there is Poles could have, their GM could have traded away that #1 pick to get more picks and just continue rolling the dice with Justin Fields. So good question there from Doug. Staying with the Jayden Daniels talks here, the man, the myth, the legend. Do you guys really think Jayden Daniels will be the pick, or is it all a smokescreen?
Well, I don't know what the smoke screen is because there is nothing out there that says Jayden Daniels is the pick other than just kind of people saying it because that's what they think. Not because nobody, and this needs to be totally understood, not one human being on the planet has said Washington told them that Jayden Daniels is their guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So just kind of put that whole smoke screen, and maybe you're just trying to say, do you think Jayden Daniels will be the guy or not? I do think Jayden Daniels is the guy. And my whole reason for it, in terms of not what I think I want Washington to do, but what I think they will do, Dan Quinn has said on multiple occasions that as a defensive coordinator, he hated preparing for mobile quarterbacks, guys who can run, and he hated preparing for them. It was so hard. And so to have that guy on his team, that's what I think he wants.
I don't disagree that that's what DQ wants, because he's kind of talked about that, about how a guy like Jayden Daniels would strike fear in him as a defensive coordinator. And I don't know that any of that's smokescreen. And as far as the pick is concerned, I think everybody's starting to, again, the consensus is Jayden Daniels is starting to become more clearly the number 2 quarterback in this draft. And so I don't think that's a smokescreen. I feel like that's just where, as more and more people are going through, as my hearing aid falls out, more and more people are kind of looking at things. They're just saying Jayden Daniels, go number 2, because I feel like that guy's the best quarterback not named Caleb Williams in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
But as Grimjaw says, hey, it's a smokescreen because Adam Peters doesn't have leaks. Bosky joining us tonight. Essentially, we have the number 1 overall pick. The Bears invited Caleb and Caleb only. Does the loaded visit show we're not sold on a QB? Yeah, I mean, they've got all of them there eating, and I don't know that it's done deal Jayden Daniels myself. I feel there is still a decision to be made, and these top 30 visits matter and stuff like that. So I don't think of it as a smokescreen. Mainly, it's just, hey, Adam Peters keeps us all guessing just because he might not have a pick just yet. Trev, did you have any say in that one?
Yeah, I'm not completely sold on it being Jayden Daniels as well. That's what I want it to be, but it's a lot of Drake Maye ties, a lot of Drake Maye qualities that they like, and I think them hosting all 4 together is the final, not test, but the final whatever that's going to help make their decision for the draft. And I like it because it's on a more personal level. It's not like football related scheme watching or learning. It's just all personal. How do you interact? How do you get along? Do you sit back and watch, or do you take a step forward and lead? Are you quiet like Sam Howell, or are you rambunctious like, Lamar Jackson? Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's good. I'm for it. I'm all for it.
I mean, what happens if somebody comes in and says, we'll give you, pulls a Mike Ditka and says, we'll give you our entire draft plus next year's 1 and 3 if we can move up to number 2 and you can fall back to 10, for example. And you have to, if you decide that that's what you're going to do, then you better have full, complete homework done on a quarterback who you're going to take at number 10 at that point.
Right.
Or a defensive tackle or an offensive tackle or whatever it is. You can't just sort of willy-nilly it and just say, well, I'm only going to talk to 1 or 2 quarterbacks who I think will be there at 2 and be done with it. You have to do your homework on everybody because you never know what sort of scenario is going to be put in front of you come draft day. I mean, Mike Ditka can call you, man, and you remember that? He did that for the Redskins the one time. He said, I'll give you my entire draft because I want Ricky Williams. Mm-hmm. And by the way, let's not forget, I believe the next year it was a 1 and a 3 for the following season.
Yeah,
so
it was a big haul. And what you could do with that pick, by the way, what you can do is you can then just trade back up, right? Go to 4. Maybe you were okay with 1 of the 3.
Absolutely.
But I think really what it comes down to is we talked about how difficult it is to take a QB from the college level and project them as an NFL starter. And so they have the tape and they've done some interviews and they have the numbers. They've seen Jayden Daniels' pressure to sack ratio. They know what that means and all of that, all of everything that goes with it. So they are continuing to do whatever work they can, whatever thing they can glean, right? Some of these things, the Top Golf, it's not a joke, right? You know, they want to see somebody who has competitive edge. One of the things that I think was great, I think it was Sam Fortier had an insight from Dan Quinn at the combine, remembered something from way back when, and it was how does a QB react to an interception, right? And Jayden Daniels charges like full throttle, throws himself in there. Drake Maye, JJ McCarthy, you know, they tend to kind of pursue, but then not take the risk of being hit. And how does that impact, right? And they're looking for that. They're looking for that competitive edge. They're looking for a guy who's able to take charge, be a leader of men. The thing that Stoner was beating a drum for when it came to a DQ hire, right?
Mm-hmm.
A leader of men.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is something that I think will be, you know, interesting.
Greg, who do you think was a better golf for you guys?
Drake Maye, I know golfs. I think JJ McCarthy, as a hockey kid, as a competitive dude, probably has a pretty swing as well. Jayden Daniels, I don't have any information on whether or not he can. He's got a consistent stroke. So
don't most QBs aren't most QBs just naturally good at golf for whatever reason?
I think if you're an athlete who's going to be drafted in the first round, the chances are that you're just pretty good at most things physical. Yeah. That's just
true. But have you ever seen like basketball players throw out a first pitch? You know, they can't do it. They can't throw.
It's a different motion. Sure.
It's weird. It's weird like that. But yeah, it's when you think about the best players for golf, you know, football players, it's always quarterbacks. I mean, Mahomes and Josh Allen and
Tom Brady, Peyton Manning,
yeah, all those guys are just
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I don't know. So I bet you Jaden is really good at golf.
Continuing with the man, the myth, the legends question here. Do you guys prefer Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye? We did this last week, actually, and Jayden Daniels came out on top for 2/3 of the crew here. I suffer from some serious football, traumatic syndromes. I'm not going to call it PTSD for out of respect of those who actually suffer from PTSD. Mine is all football related. And it has nothing to do with RG3. A lot of people, I feel like a lot of Washington fans are concerned about Jayden Daniels' size and him running and remembering, Nagata snapping RG3's leg. That's not my worry. It's the Sam Howell concern of being back there and taking sacks and partially because the NFL game is so much faster than college, so much faster than SEC. I know we talked throughout those Saban years, they could beat the worst NFL team. They can't. They cannot. And the game is so much faster at this level. And Jayden Daniels is going to go through growing pains. I still think that he has probably the second best shot at being offensive rookie of the year. There's a lot of exciting things around him, but his processing, I think, is going to take a hit in the first year, and we're going to see a lot more running because when he gets into trouble, his instinct is right now, put the ball down and run. He scrambles or takes a sack in nearly 50% of his dropbacks, and that's why I went Drake Maye. Even though Drake Maye also has his concerns. So that's just me.
Can I give you a hot take that just fresh off the press?
Yeah, absolutely.
Florio has a nice hot take on why the Commanders brought in all 4 quarterback prospects at once.
Let's hear it.
Commanders hater or
I was
troll.
about to say
should
Flora,
Probably,
yeah.
probably not hater, but I'll say troll, Florio, Pro Football Talk. He says Josh Harris wanted to be, now he says it's his guess. Josh Harris wanted to be present for the visits and that they were lined up on a day when he was available. I wouldn't expect the Commanders to admit that, because to admit that would be to acknowledge that Harris has a significant voice on the final decision the Commanders make. Hot take Florio coming in off out of nowhere there.
Yeah, I don't even know if I want to comment on it. I feel like that's just a bunch of malarkey, and that's just Florio being Florio. And I don't even know, him, Peter King hated the Redskins, and he's, somewhat lobbied against some of our Redskins greats to not be in the Hall of Fame. And this one, I just feel, I don't know. I don't feel like that's it. I feel like he's grasping at straws because nobody knows what's happening behind the scenes. And what I would say this, as far as something against this is something San Francisco was doing. San Francisco would bring in a group of their top 30 visits, maybe not 20 something like Washington did here today and yesterday, but San Francisco would bring in a group. They want to see these players interact with each other. So yeah, good night. No thanks.
All right, I have one for you.
All right, we do have 4 more in the kicker here, and if anybody else has a question, make sure to put it in the chat, and we'll get to it while we're here live. Nearly 300 people, so you want to make sure that you hit that like button if you haven't already during the channel. Stoner gets on me all the time because I do not push that enough during the lives.
Correct.
So he probably wants to do it now.
The question is, do you think today, if the draft, I don't want to say if the draft, do you think today that their mind has been made up on who they take at number 2?
No.
You think they still don't know, with 1 week before the draft, they still don't know who they're taking at number 2?
I said no.
I think they'll know by Friday. I think this last visit is just the icing on the cake of the decision. It's kind of weird that, like I said, Michael Penix is there when they really haven't. He hasn't been. Well, it hasn't been reported that we have seen a lot of interest or shown a lot of interest in him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're about 80% sure, and I think this is going to equal the 20% that they need to get 100%. I really do.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was just wondering if anybody else. I mean, I think they do. I think these things are important. These interviews and the whole thing that they did at Topgolf. I think it's really important to the entire process. But I think they're probably 95% in one camp, and there's very little that's going to change their mind. I just don't think that as long as they've been together. When was Quinn hired? January?
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Right? They've been together. They've watched the tapes. They've interviewed. They've gone to combines. They've talked to coaches. They've seen every throw that these quarterbacks have ever made in their life. They've talked to every person in their life. They've talked to them multiple times. They've seen the medicals. And I think they're probably, they're right there. They're at 95% sure. And the only thing that could really flip it is if something comes up maybe in a medical that they didn't see before, or
Drake Maye threw a golf club at the screen and just completely lost his cool.
Right. I mean, I think they know who they're going to take.
It is possible. I don't know that anybody really knows at this point, not even Vegas. In fact, if you're headed over to Bet Online, you can use the code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to get yourself a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. But they are all over the map right now in Vegas. Bet Online is going to help you out with all of your wagering news, whether or not it's for the draft. JJ McCarthy right now over under at 5.5, taking The 5.5 pick right now is his over under. Jackson Powers Johnson, all that information, Joe Alt. You can check it all out. Not just that, NBA playoffs are underway. NHL action, the Caps. Stoner, we haven't even talked about your Caps. The Caps are in the playoffs, and you can bet on them if you want to continue riding the hot streak that is our Washington Capitals. You'll have all that information over at Bet Online. Just use that code BELIEVE, get that welcome bonus, and do yourself a favor. Bet Online, where the game starts. But nobody knows, Stoner. Nobody knows.
Right. Nobody knows. It's just my speculation. It's just my guess.
I just feel like if they knew, we probably wouldn't see all four. They would want to. I feel like if they knew, if they absolutely had an idea that what they were going to do at 2, there was only one QB taken off the board, right. Caleb Williams. If they knew, they're not wasting a top 30 visit on all of them. Maybe they just have Drake. Maybe they do just have Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels, but they're like again, JJ McCarthy, stay home. Michael Penix Jr., stay home. I get, Stoner, that what you're saying is, somebody comes in, Minnesota comes in and offers you this year's firsts and next year's firsts and seconds to move up to 2, and they take whoever they want to take, and you're like, fine, we'll play the dice and take whoever's available at 11, or maybe move back up. I get that you want to play, you want to be smart about it, but you have other means to do that. Mm-hmm. You still have research. This to me was deliberate. They are still deciding, and maybe, Stoner, it comes down to Adam Peters has his guy. Maybe Dan Quinn is a Jayden Daniels guy, and then Cliff Kingsbury is just like, guys, you better take Drake Maye, because my boy over in North Carolina says this. And, I'm just saying that, maybe someone had mentioned Pritchard, right? The QB coach is probably sitting there in somebody's ear saying, hey, I can coach this out of them. I can't coach this out of that person. Right. Yeah. So I feel like there is more information going on, and Josh Harris also does want to be there, and he wants to see, like, hey, I want to know how this all works out. So I don't feel like they have 100%. They're probably 60, 75% of the way. But yeah, there might be, Gregory, there might be too many cooks in the kitchen. Just maybe. Moving through the questions. This one's real quick here from Doug. Why do people put in apostrophe in Daniels?
It's an
English
accident.
is hard. All right. That's it. That's your answer. English is hard. People, I guarantee you, some people probably aren't aware that his name is Daniels and not Daniel. And so Daniels is just that extra apostrophe, but English is just hard. I can't pronounce people's names right. I'm not going to get on people's grammar as far as that's concerned, but a fun one there from Doug. The JG question, Kieran and Zinter, will they be ready to start game 1 2024 if either becomes a Commander's pick?
I have no idea who Zinter is.
Oh, I love Zinter. Zinter's a guard from Michigan, and I think he broke his leg in the semifinal game, or maybe it was the Ohio State game. So it's really late in the season, but he is a stud. He's a guard.
Yeah, Zach Zinter.
Yeah, he is fantastic. I watched a lot of him. Kieran, I don't know much about, so I'm not sure. And the answer to that is I don't think the Zinter will be ready for game 1. But you're not drafting him to be ready for game 1 either. You're drafting him to be ready for year 2 through 8 or whatever.
Kieran is the offensive tackle from Yale.
Oh, okay.
Started the first 4 games at left tackle, but missed the end of the season due to a quad injury.
Yeah.
So that's who it is. And JG, I feel you about not typing in that last name, because that's one I'm going to have to put into the research to learn how to say. But yeah, Kieran, I feel like the quad injury is probably something that you can come back from quicker. But I mean, you're talking about 300-pound linemen bumping over 300-pound linemen. And so I just don't know that it would be smart. I see here on NFL.com, Kieran's got a round 3 grade. So maybe if you take him late, but I mean, we listed our round 3 guys as depth piece or situational starter. Are we okay having a left tackle who is going to be year 1 on the bench?
No, I'm not okay with that.
No, I'm good too.
No, I'm not okay with that.
So Commandees has a different Kieran in mind. I'm interested to hear which Kieran that one is. So Commandees has a safety in mind for that one. Yeah, I feel like for either of those, one, if you're taking Zenter late, and I didn't see his draft profile, so I'd have to pick that up to see when he's being mocked. But I mean, I probably wouldn't be spending a top 100 pick on somebody who's not really ready to play now, unless you really feel like Kieran is, and JG confirms that it was the offensive tackle from Yale that we're talking about here. Unless you're convinced that he's going to be your left tackle, that he's just injured and he is the guy, then I probably wouldn't do that. My God G is how Locked On Law says this. Amagaji.
Nice.
All right. So that is that's that question there. Deluxe, wasn't Washington talking to Darnold prior to Mariota? Is the backup QB really an indication? A lot of people have pointed at the signing of Mariota as a sign that they're leaning towards Jayden Daniels. Is that really an indicator, or is the fact that they were looking at Sam Darnold something to figure into this as well?
For me personally, I kind of take it in a little bit of a different way, not in terms of style of play. I don't think it's an indicator. The one I think that's an indicator is whether it's Mariota or Darnold, these are not starting quarterback caliber players. So they need a guy who can come in on day one and play, whether that's Daniels or Drake Maye. So they're not going to I've heard right from the man's mouth, which actually I don't remember if it was Quinn or Peters, but I heard it right from them. They said they wouldn't mind, or it's not a big deal if their quarterback has to sit a little bit.
Yeah, Adam Peters said it. Yeah,
Peters said that, right? I don't buy that. I don't buy that they're going to go out week 1. Let's just say week 1. We don't know the schedule. Let's say week 1 is at home and it's against Philly. And we've got this Jayden Daniels, for example. Jayden Daniels is our quarterback, and the off season and Dan Quinn and training camp was electric, and there were 10,000 fans there every day, and we got game 1 at home at Commanders Field and everything, and we're going to march out Marcus Mariota? Not happening. It's just not going to happen.
No, dude, it ain't
I think it's an indicator that they didn't sign a guy like Jacoby who can manage an NFL game.
A more of a bridge quarterback. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So that's the indicator that the way I look at it is that they got a guy who is 100% a backup quarterback, and that whoever they draft is going to start week 1. I don't think it's an indicator of style of quarterback. I just think it's an indicator of that they're going to start their rookie day 1.
I think it's a bit of an indicator that who can mentor our number 2 pick. You know what I mean? Who was a better mentor for that? And I believe Mariota fits that bill. Reason why is because his college success, Heisman Trophy winner. He put Oregon on the map really with that spread offense or whatever and the running mobility. He came in and did some nice things. He's a winning starting quarterback. Not like blow your socks off, but he has won in the NFL as a starting quarterback, and he's shown he can win games as a backup as well. Sam Darnold really hasn't shown us anything, which is kind of the reason why he is considered a backup as after being, a high draft pick.
Yeah,
He was
top
in
3
San
pick.
Francisco. Yeah, he was in. I mean, he was great at USC. Of course, that's the reason why he was picked so high. But ever since he got in the league, he's had chances to be a starting quarterback. He's been benched or hurt, or benched because he's hurt, or benched because of bad play. He's like an older version of Zach Wilson, if you think about it. So I just figure like they went to Sam Darnold because he was in San Francisco last year with Adam Peters. Maybe that's a little connection. But then they went and after that realized, he's not really going to help our number 2 guy as much as I think Mariota will. So
I think actually it probably came down to because, like you said, Adam Peters went after Sam Darnold. There's probably some recency bias there. There's also some scouting and wanting Sam Darnold here. Sam Darnold chose somewhere else. Now, money probably was the biggest factor, and Stoner always says money talks, and money is going to be the biggest factor over most things. But I have to wonder if it was also the conversation that, like what you're saying, Stoner, they're not being sincere when they say Mariota could start and the QB that they take will sit, right? They talked with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold understood I'm coming in here as a backup if I go to Washington, and I don't think he was okay with that. Where he Mariota ended up at Minnesota, where they're picking lower, right? Where they might not get a top 4 QB, right? That he has a chance to start there, and that QB can sit a la Jordan Love, a la Aaron Rodgers, right? And do that in Minnesota where he wasn't going to be here. Plus the offense, the having more of a Shanahan offense, I think played a factor with Sam Darnold going elsewhere. But they're looking for a backup QB. They're not looking for a bridge QB.
Do you think that this kind of piggybacks off of that? This is kind of another question that do you think that, or would you be okay with them drafting a quarterback with the idea that they're not ready? Would you be okay, basically? Let's just say they believe Drake Maye has a higher ceiling, but they don't think he'll be ready for the first month or 2. Would you be okay with them trotting out Marcus Mariota for the first 2 months?
This is a family show. Do you have the beep button ready? If not, I can do it myself.
Hey.
I'll make sure I have the beep button here. Okay, I got you.
No. I would not be okay with that. It's the number 2 pick.
Yeah.
If that's the case, why are you even drafting a quarterback if you don't even want to use them?
But you believe he has a higher ceiling.
Then. You know what I mean?
But you believe he has a higher ceiling, that he can be better in the long run.
That's great. Now, what if we do that and he's not? Now we just wasted a number 2 pick with a Michael Penix Jr. when we have Marvin Harrison Jr. that could help us win now, because drafting Penix to win later at number 2, I'm not cool with that. If that's the case, then you might as well just pick somebody else and then hope to pray that Michael Penix Jr. is down there in the 2nd or 3rd round or whatever other pick you have. I would not be okay with that. Not at number 2, man. That's ridiculous. No way.
I do feel like you have to try to trot him out here, and I'm not going to go as far as Grimjaw here. Drake Maye could get a condensed playbook to get him going. It's not that hard. Playing QB is hard, and the NFL playing QB is really, really. It's not easy. If it were easy, there would be better than 15 quarterbacks that can actually play at a high level, right? But most teams are looking for the next QB or trying to position themselves that when they get a QB who can play, can do it. But I do feel like there are ways to set up a rookie QB for success and having them start early. And I feel like Washington's doing a lot of that right now. They went out and they got Austin Eckler, and they have a Brian Johnson and an Anthony Lynn as a run game coordinator, right? It seems like what they're going to do is set it up that the QB in question, whoever they take at 2, or Mariota, if things don't work out quite as well, as they don't want to rely on the QB position this year. that if they get something from the QB position this year, it's a bonus. But I would expect a Michigan style playbook going out the gate where we're running the ball 30 times a game and only dropping back 25 to 30 times a game.
Yeah.
The JJ McCarthy playbook, maybe that could be a sign as well where they're going to go there. But I do think that that's what's going to happen and why we should expect to see the rookie QB out there unless things go really far south on that rookie QB. So moving along through these questions here, Grimjaw had a question for us. Is Jeremiah Trotter Jr. a good heir apparent target at linebacker in the draft?
Yeah. Why not? He's pretty good. He did some good things at Clemson. His dad was a successful NFL player. I think he played for us for a little bit too, didn't he? Did he not?
We had Trotter here for a while.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yep.
He was here in
For
Philly
1
too,
year, I
right?
want to say.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? I mean, yeah. I don't know where you would get him. I don't want to get him at 36 or 40 even. Now, if he's there at 40, we got who he wanted at 36 or 36. Okay. But, yeah, I mean, he's not somebody that I would trade up for to go get or make some moves to go get. I would, no disrespect to him, but you know what I mean? So, yeah, he's a good.
What's his average draft position is what I want to look up. By the way, Jeremiah Trotter Sr. played for Washington 2002 to 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Trotter he's basically a day 2, possibly even a day 3 pick. That's kind of where he's at. So if you can grab him, with your 3rd rounder, that's a position of need because Bobby Wagner's not going to be here forever. Jamin Davis is in the last year of his contract, so you definitely need linebacker. So yeah, I mean he's a guy I wouldn't hate, but I think that is probably a what's that word I use, the bias, because you know who he is, the name.
It's absolutely name recognition.
The name recognition. And so familiarity bias, that's what that is.
Yeah, that's normally what we call it. This one's just strictly name.
Yeah.
This is name recognition. It's not to say, like Trev said, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. isn't his own player or can't be a good NFL player. We saw Joey Porter Jr. do well in Pittsburgh last year. So I mean, this isn't Jerry Rice Jr., who is only going to make a team because of the name and not anything. I don't know that this is a player Washington is looking at personally, and I don't know that how high they value a linebacker this draft. They invited a lot of linebackers in their top 30 visits, and this isn't one of them. And I think that tells me Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is probably not going to come here. And as far as he'll be good NFL talent, well, time will tell. Moving along, Will Diggs here. What do you guys think of trading up to take the best edge rusher? We've talked about trading up to take the best offensive tackle. Right, edge rusher is important, and we've looked at some of them. We talked about one with Chris Braswell yesterday's video. Not completely sold on him, but there are some talents in that first round. Would you be okay getting one of those talents? Trev's absolutely not.
Nah, man, I don't want to trade up to get no.
I'm with you, Trev.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
I'm not trading up to get the best edge rusher. I get it, but I'm trading up to get a tackle. Yeah, that's what I'm trading up to get.
That's the only. Yeah,
we don't necessarily have game-changing edge rushers like you could get if you traded into the first round, but we have a bunch of them who can play already. How many? We went from having basically no edge rushers to now all of a sudden we got like a gazillion of them. How many do we have? We have Obata, right? We have KJ Henry and Andre Jones. We have the guy from Dallas. I've already forgotten his name. Dante Fowler, right? We've got the other edge rusher that we got from Dallas. I mean, they've signed a whole bunch of edge rushers. So at this point, no. You have much more important need there at offensive tackle.
Bingo.
Yeah,
Why can't I think of the guy's
I'm not enthused with most
Dorn
of
bounced
the
off.
edge rushers, and I would stay probably far away. Right, if there was a Micah Parsons in this year's draft,
Right.
then sure, I can
Right,
see that being an option.
Or Chase Young.
Okay, maybe not. But if yeah, Clellan Farrell. I mean, there's Latu from from UCLA. I mean, they're okay, but I mean, there's Micah Parsons is a difference maker, and I don't necessarily see that. And I don't necessarily agree with Gregory. I don't think there's really some great rushers in the second either. I think, and this is a question I'm going to pitch to you guys. I pitched this to our friends over in the Bunker, another Commanders podcast. You can go check them out on Apple Podcast. What is higher on the draft board for you, wide receiver or edge rusher?
Wide receiver.
Oh man, for me, which is higher on the draft board? Yeah, wide receiver. I think so. Just because of their free agent signings, they did.
I was gonna say we got a lot of depth at the edge rushing right now. We ain't got nobody at the WR position.
Yeah, who's wide receiver 3 right now? Crowder, Diami.
Butasa between them, and this is everyone's chiming in with wide receiver. And not only did and you guys know me, I think edge rusher is the second most important, or pass rusher specifically is the second most important position on the football field. So I wanted to get an elite guy, but as I looked through kind of the free agent signings, and as I looked through the players who are available, I started not falling in love with them, and I don't want to spend a pick on them. And I think that wide receiver, even though this is a deep wide receiver draft, I feel like getting the wide receiver you want is much more important there. And Locked on Law, I mean, I hate to necessarily agree with the sentiment, not that I hate to agree with Locked on Law. But Jahan is a question as wide receiver 2. We saw flashes his rookie year. He had a sophomore slump. Can he bounce back? Right. That's a legitimate question.
I have a lot of confidence in.
I have a great deal of confidence in him.
Yeah,
I do too.
So to also to piggyback on something that I brought up earlier about the Florio hot take, which is getting hotter right now. Commander's Twitter is kind of going crazy because also he's saying, Florio is also saying, why would you dilute your ability to get maximum time by bringing 4 guys in at once? You're trying to evaluate 4 guys at once. Drake Maye's agent. Wait, is it Drake Maye's agent? Yeah, Drake Maye's. No. Jayden Daniels' agent.
I think it's Jayden Daniels.
Retweeted it with an emoji of like,
Oh,
there is a little bit of smoke that Jayden Daniels is not necessarily enamored with going to Washington. There is a little bit of that smoke.
I think I honestly feel like this, from what I understand from Jayden Daniels' personality, is that he is a little bit more. I think he even self-proclaimed himself as an introvert. And so I don't feel like the group setting was a setting he can excel in. And so if his agent is kind of doing that thing, I think it's because, and this tells me Jayden Daniels is not a lock at 2. I don't care about the Florio business for the comments.
Well, I know,
but no, I'm saying, and it's particularly about the Jayden Daniels agent tweeting that out.
Yeah.
I don't know about the heat behind him and Adam Peters and all this other malarkey. It's the fact that Jayden Daniels, his agent, would be willing to do that. Fully knowing these guys, I work in the PR field too. Okay. They know what he knows. That agent, I'm not sorry to assume that it was a he, that agent knows what they did. Okay. They know the firestorm that's going to come from creating that that thinking face emoji. That is interesting. Deluxe, why would Jaden not want to come to Washington? Is New England better positioned? I mean, Jaden was on his IG a couple weeks ago, and you can tell the kid would love to go to Las Vegas. Not that that's a real possibility, but that's just kind of, I know people make fun of his age, but he's still young. Okay, so maybe just coming to DC just doesn't excite him, and he just wants to come into the NFL and play football. That's really what
he'll be here. He'll be here.
Well, I think unless there's a question that comes in here last minute, I think we've run out of time. So there will be no mock draft this week. So we do appreciate everybody jumping in the chat and giving us some great questions. That Florio news was outstanding. Mainly, I love the agent talk. We'll have to see how everything pans out. We'll be live next week, as we are live every Wednesday here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. You can catch our recorded content both on YouTube and wherever you listen to your audio podcast. Make sure you leave us a rating and review wherever you are, as that helps other people find our channel. If you're watching this, if you're one of the more than 300 people watching this, make sure you hit that like button, so that way Stoner is a happy man. He has to also pay for all the things he broke after watching our Washington Capitals clinch a playoff. Not just clinch a playoff, but also knock out both the Flyers and the Penguins. So good.
And the Red Wings, which my family is all about the Red Wings. So that was good too.
Real quick, this is off topic, but I got a shout out to a specific guy out there, a specific fan. His name is Caleb. Crazy story, real quick. Went to a daughter's soccer game yesterday. He was in charge of admissions. Didn't know they were charging admissions. It was a home game. Walked up to him and asked if I could double up because we have another game on Friday for missing a payment. Caleb says, "It's okay, man. It's all good. I know you from your show." I'm like, "Rep the district?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "What's your name?" He said, "Caleb." And I'm like, "Caleb Workman?" He said, "Yeah." So I dapped him up and he let us in for free. But shout out to Caleb Workman. Appreciate you watching the show. It was a really good feeling coming from a small town, knowing that somebody actually watches the show and listens to us three yahoos give incredibly hot takes, hot fire takes. So that was pretty cool. So shout out Caleb one time for being a fan.
Shout out Caleb two times.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. So it's no longer Casey two sacks. It's Caleb two shouts here on Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's Trev. That's the Stoner. We're brought to you by Bet Online and Don't Sleep Energy. We'll be back on Monday and we'll be live for the draft. Sean Taylor jersey. You're not going to want to miss out. But until next time.
Trev, be careful out there in them mean streets with your elbow, son.
You should see the other guy.
Be a fan.